So saving the layer. So we are creating a layer. We are creating an empty layer. Switch off your microphone. Always when you're trying to Zoom session, switch off your microphone. Unless you have something to say. I think maybe I should go to settings and disable all microphones. I don't know how to do it. Let me see. Mute participants. Okay. Okay. So, yep, we're now looking for a folder. We said tutorial 2022, and now we want to give it a file name. So we are interested in airports. We've seen 2. We don't know, maybe there may be 3 within the area. So, but we're just gonna give it airports. Okay, so you can see that airports is the theme, is the topic. We can't go and capture a palm tree and then put it in this one, this layer. So layers are like that. That's why anytime we talk about layers, we talk about themes, a thematic something. Are you okay? It's more thematic. All right, so we can now save it. And then we, okay, let's carry on. Later, I'll show you something about this file that we just saved. All right, so we move on, file encode and leave it there. Geometry type, you want to choose point. So you can see that if you know what geometry is, it's about shapes and lines and how they are related. Okay, so points is the one we want. We don't want lines, we don't want multi-point, we don't want polygon. So choose point. Then you come to additional. Okay, we have the coordinate system here. Even though you don't really see us, leave the additional dimensions as none, and then come here. Here, this thing you are seeing here, EPSG32630 WGS, that's the coordinate system. So if you don't understand the coordinate system, that is up to you now. You have to understand what it stands for. All right. Now, the coordinate system we are seeing now is UTM zone 30 north. We've discussed the UTM, and that is not what we want. Okay, because typical coordinates in this area is -80, 26. That doesn't look anything like, you know what I'm saying, UTM. So your understanding of the concept for UTM, the values are so huge. The X values will be 500,000 there about in meters. It doesn't look like 80 or 26. So here, your understanding of the theory is important. Then you can move on. So now we want to change it. We don't want it. So we go for select CRS, coordinate reference system. Okay. Yeah, a whole lot of different names, special reference system and all that. Okay, so I have been using some different coordinate systems, so but I assume you don't. So what you want to do is I want to just type in the box. There's a filter, and there's a box to the right of it. Type in WGS 84, and then that will bring you WGS 84 coordinate system. Then you can select it, but there's an ID to every coordinate system. Okay, why? There are too many coordinate systems. Sometimes you can't even believe it. Okay, the Earth is not having a regular shape. That is the reason. Put that in your mind. And so, of course, we also want to minimize distortion. So we choose WGS 84, not WGS 84 / no, not that one, any of these. And we just say, okay. So now that becomes a selected CRS. Okay. All right. Now we come to this place. You just see new field. Why? What are fields doing here? Okay, that's a natural question that will come to anybody's mind. Okay, so let's go to the whiteboard and let me explain to you. Where's my whiteboard? Okay, wait. So here, why are we having the new field? I want to explain to you. Let me just shift it to the right. So, okay, so this is what happens. another word for field is actually a column. Okay, so I want you to understand that. So when you see a column, you are seeing, I hope I've started recording, have I? Got too many things in my mind. Okay, of course. So column stands for field. Okay. A row is also a record. Okay, so they are synonymous. So column is synonymous with field as row is synonymous with records. Okay, so but what are all these things? Okay, you never talk about rows and columns until you are actually looking at a table. Okay, so that's a table. All right, so what tables got to do with my new layer? Because I want to create locations where airports are. So hello, explain it to me better. I am going to explain it to you. Don't worry about it. Okay, why is he putting these numbers for? So this is the first row or first record. And then of course, we have the fields. These are the fields. Okay. All right. So this is what a GIS does. And it's in your, I'm sure you have it in your notes. You have every object on the ground being defined by a record in the GIS software in what we call the attribute table. So this table we are looking up here is the attribute table. Okay, you might have talked about it. You were thinking, what is he talking about? Now you are going to see it. So relax. So the fields, how many fields? 1, 2, 3, 4 fields. Okay, now the name of the fields is what we are going to be changing. We are supposed to specify the fields. So you can have so many fields, so many records. So many records means so many airports identified within our project where we are doing the on-screen digitizing. Okay, so these are the fields. Okay, a typical field name will be name. That's quite confusing, isn't it? So this one will be name. And usually don't write a full name. If you want to say ID, okay, which should come first? Are you okay? So you have the ID normally, maybe object ID, something like that. Then you have the name. Then you can have, so you can call it whatever you want to call it, Grafton Airports, whatever, Kotoka Airports. Then you can now have other attributes. Okay, so that every attribute is a field. Okay, so every attribute is a field, and the records together with the corresponding, without fields you can't have records, without records you can't have fields. All of them, okay, come together, okay, and I want to call it a table. So try and put these 3, 4 words together, and then let's go back to our software. So we can't just be working on the software without machine. So you can see that it's asking for the name of the new field. Okay, so we're going to call it name. The first field, we call it name. What we want to store in this name, we want to store tests. Okay, so that brings us to the type you see in there is actually data type. Okay, so data type. I don't teach data type, data management, those things. It takes us to database management. And the whole course becomes too bulky. I've taken it out. Okay, so talk about types, data type. Then obviously we are looking at integer, tests, also known as strings, floats, also known as real floats, dates, date is dates. Okay, right? So these are data types that we can associate any data we have with it. The lack of data and subsequent information means that you're going to be a very poor person if you don't have data. Even if you have you own a huge estate and you don't have data on it, they're just going to sell all your property away. You won't be aware, isn't it? So that is why these things are important, because data is always structured and well organized in such a way that data is even given types. So the example of an integer will be, say, 12. Example of a test will be Kotoka. Why? Because we got all these characters string together. Okay, so strings, yeah. Okay, that's my own explanation of why a string is a string. 9.6 will be an example. 9.8, these are real numbers or floats, real. Not real, degenerate. Okay, don't get emotional. All right, so date 24/01/2021. I don't know what's gonna happen on that day, but yeah, no superstition here. But obviously, I hope you are understanding what I'm trying to say. We're going back to QGIS and we carrying on. So we know what the type is. The length of it, for example, Kutuka, the length of Kutuka is actually KOTOKA. Okay, so that's 6 characters. Okay, here we are having a length of 80. That means that we can't go above 80. So we can't type any name that's longer than that. So if you pick a very long name, Mississippi, I mean, I don't even know what country has a very large name. Are you okay? Yeah, a very long name. You know, you may not, 80 will still suffice. With what we've done, we click on add to field list. Okay, and then we've created a one field. So that's the end of one field. So that's basically it. Excuse me. All right, so in the chart area, step number 7 is where we've created a layer, okay, and then we are still filling in. So we add to fill is fill the data, the inputs, information, and click add fill list. So do same for 2 or more fields of interest. Okay, and so we're gonna create, I think, 2 more. Not I think, we are going to do it. Okay, so we just quickly, so now by now every student understand what I'm doing. So I just go a bit faster than that. What would I be interested in at an airport? At an airport, the location, the county, the region, county. Okay, test data. That's how fast I can create another one. I can look at something on numbers. Establishment date, established. Okay, that would be dates, isn't it? So we have date information. Established, I can just do EST. Date, then I just do date. So now that will store dates. Okay, so that's enough for that. I mean, we're almost done. It's not complicated, it's not rocket science. Okay, so with this done, we are ready to just say okay. Just say okay. That's it. You don't have to think again. Airports, if I say okay. Great. You see that it's been added as a layer in the QGIS. And to be sure of what you are on about, hey, are you people there? What's going on here? I can't see my, okay, that's where, okay, I've seen it. Okay, great. So I'm going to show you in the Explorer what happened with what we did. It's very important. Then we'll look at it again when we start actually digitize. So we go to our My Explorer. Then we go to the folder that I'm working in. So it's always good to organize yourself. Now you can see that about 4 files have been created for me. I have a CVG file, which of course is a file of a certain type, which we haven't really discussed. It's not a zip file. Take note of that. Okay. And then we have a DBF file, which is a database file. We have a PRJ file. We've talked about this last week. We have an AutoCAD shape source and AutoCAD compile source. We have these files types. Okay, so AutoCAD compile shape, AutoCAD shape source. So we literally have created a shape file of 4 kilobytes. Okay, 4 kilobytes. All right, so there you go. What do? Let's go back to QGIS and then select that layer. So we select the layer by simply left clicking. Yes, left click. And then this is what you do. You go up into your layer menu. Okay, let's try that. Okay. There's a shortcut, but I want to show you other ways that you can actually do this. Toggle, we are looking for what we call it toggle editing. So layer. If you don't find it, we just use the shortcut, but there's supposed to be, something in here. There it is, layer, and then toggle editing. It's right there. Okay, so you click that, and then something magical happens, but we are going to look at it. Let me just make this note here. Step 9. Select the layers. Save. Let's layer created, and toggle editing. So layer toggle. Okay, so toggle editing means to toggle. If there's a toggle button on your computer, there's a way to toggle between windows, but a lot of people don't even know. Alt, then you press tab, you start toggling. So you can try it on your laptop or your computer. All right, so we've toggled editing. What happened? When you look up here, yeah, in this case, these buttons, these buttons are really, or icons are very important. You can see that we now have these activated. In other words, when it wasn't active, all these things were, all these buttons were disabled. Okay, when we had not turned on editing. So to toggle editing is to start editing or to turn it off. So to toggle is to move from one state to another state and then back and then forth again. So every time you toggle, you go from on to off, off to on to off, like back and forth. Okay, so we toggle again, realize that these buttons become active. One of the buttons that become active is the add point feature. This is a point layer. So add point feature makes sense. That means we want to add a point. All right, but when we look at our map panel, it's very clear. Our airports are there. There's the Airglades Airport, and then there's the Clewiston Airport. So simple, we're going to click it and then fill it in with the appropriate attribute information. Okay, hold on. Let me just do something and get back to you. Okay, you know what I always do. I think it's time to take attendance. So Please, all of you, go on the WhatsApp page, switch on your videos. Yeah, switch on your cameras. Okay, so here we are. So we toggle the editing. We are going to add a point. So you just click add point feature. Okay, so toggle editing, add point feature. That's the next thing you do. Toggle editing. The internet wasn't stable, so please bear with me, but I think it happens from time to time. Okay, back here. So let's start digitizing our first airport. You click add point feature. So yeah, so layer toggle editing and add point feature, add points feature. So the word feature is used a lot in geography. Okay, don't forget this course is geographical information systems and its application. So you have to understand geographical information systems. So you see how you can apply it. Are you okay? So that is why at a point. So you can see that now my cursor has turned into a target. It's no longer what it used to be. So let me do it again. Let's actually stop the editing again. You see my cursor is the pound tool. Okay, I start editing and I add a point. Okay, now let me just stop it again. I want you to see the difference clearly. Even when I toggle editing and I start editing, my cursor is the pound tool. When I click on the add point, it turns into a target. And then now I can precisely place it where I want it to be digitized. So digitizing the point is so easy. Just click it. That's it. Done. Give it an ID. I mean, seriously speaking, I'm yet to even find out if you make an error in the ID, what's going to happen. But let's just give it one. The name, we can read the name straight from the map. Excuse me, it's air glades. Okay, it makes sense. Air and then glade, something like something more like, I don't know. I thought it should sound more like air glide, gliding, that kind of thing. But county, I think we saw something on county, but we'll just ignore it for now. Later, when we find, we bring it in. Now you can see that we can put in the date and we get a calendar to pick the date. Okay, so you can simply pick today's dates. We don't even know. Maybe we can pick an older date, 1956. Of course, that would make sense, 1956. So January 1956, okay. 18th January 1956. Let's assume that's the date we want. You just say, okay. Now, when you look closely, you see that the point is there. You see? It's even telling us what's the attribute information is. It's saying egglets. Okay, how does it know? Because we've given it to it. Okay, this is no magic, but it sounds like magical. What we're going to do is that we'll do Cleviston, and then maybe when we are bored, we see what else we can do with it. Name, Cleviston. Is it Clewiston? I think Clewiston. Okay, whatever, it can be anything. It's okay. My math teacher said, what's in the name? We're talking about variables. He said, what's in the name? Okay, so county, let's keep that null. Later on, we see what we can do with it. 1956, maybe the airport was built. Let's make this one, whatever, 1995. Enter. Okay, so done. Wow, what happened to everything? But was it done? Just I thought it disappeared. Let's cancel it. Okay, great. Okay, so we have to be careful. Let's say, okay, so now we have 2 points. If you look at it, there's a dot. There's actually a point symbol appearing on our layer, our map, digitized map, scanned map layer. Okay, scanned map layer of West Palm Beach. Okay, great. So that's the area. A beach is supposed to be part of the interface, so close to the shore, but of course this is a bigger area. All right, so I think that should be basically it. Digitize the point. This is how simple it is. So we'll see if we can do a third one. Then we will simply vamoose. Why should we have airports all over? Anyway, you don't have an airport in your city, isn't it? You don't have a lot of airports in your country. So that's your problem. This is Bell's Glade. So we just do that. So let's add that. Okay, so let's play this. We'll join for the last time when this session ends. Name Bell's Glade. Okay, please type in your name and index number into the WhatsApp. I think that's effective. I've come to realize that's also a very effective way to do it. If you are hearing me, type in your name and index number. If you're not hearing me, means you're not part of the class. I'm sorry. It's supposed to be part of the class. Go type in your name and index number. Okay, so let's make this one 2003. I'm literally typing into the calendar. Okay, it's a very good tool coming from maybe what the Microsoft.NET framework, something like that. I mean, it's not my doing at all. It's just someone else who's created this, and we are just making use of it. So we have 3 airports. Okay, done. What are you waiting for? Let's save it. So we can see that we have the save button, save layer edits ready. So save layer edits. We can toggle editing after that. Save layer edits. Chart. Save layer edits. And toggle editing. Okay, so just do that. Just come in here, save it, toggle is saved. So done airports. I've digitized some 3 airports. So what can we observe from this point that we have digitized? What are some of the interesting things we can find out? Let's right click the layer. Let's start with, okay, let's do a couple of things, a whole lot. Open attribute table. You see that we have everything we did is appearing in the attribute table. So you can see a table, right? And then the fields are the actual field names we gave. They are the attribute names, okay? And we have ID name. In fact, you can see the mistake we made with the Bell's Glade. The ID is 1, it's supposed to be like 3 if it's really a proper ID. So we can change that. You can see the toggle editing is nicely showing up here. I doubt if you can see the attribute table. Let me see. I doubt. Okay, this is attribute table. Sorry about that. So I can actually toggle editing here. I have my field, and as I was saying, the ID is actually not in the right order. So I can still make edits. In fact, I can even edit the locations. I can move them. All right. So let's do this. Let's edit it. Let's change it. Let's make it 3. Let's enter. Let's toggle editing again. Now it's asking us a question. Do you want to see the changes to the layer? But this is a question that always pops up when you do editing. So now this is it. So the ID could have been anything unique, right? And these are our dates. Nicely done. Are you okay? Can I copy this to Excel? Maybe I can. There's a lot you can do. Once you are taught something, just explore. Don't sit down and stare. Okay, that makes you a C student. You always get C if you don't like to explore and find out more about what you've been told or what you've been given. So you can see here, I'm ordering them. As I click by it orders it by, I can order it by date. So already this is looking something very useful. Okay, very simple exercise, and yet there's a lot, are you okay, that I can do. All right, now let's see. The blue you can see this is not highlighted blue for no reason. It's actually selecting a particular airport. So what we'll do is that we'll go, whilst it's blue like that, we'll go and look at the map and see if some selection. You can see clearly that it's actually highlighted the Bells Glade Airport. And when we go to our attribute table, that's the particular airport that have been highlighted. So by just clicking to the end of this, you can highlight and select certain features, okay? You can also do some sort of query using an expression, okay? So you can select based on the fields that you have, okay? So you can choose, okay, I want to select a particular, field, and I want to just, see what the result is on the map. Okay, so that one is also there. Okay, so for now, let's carry on and finish up. These are the possibilities, the reason why we're doing what we're doing. So let's move on and do line. You are going to digitize like a linear feature. Okay, so digitizing the linear feature, we can now choose the particular linear feature. We can go for routes, or we can go for railways. They are all linear features, but you can see we can go forever. So we need to carefully choose. It will be good to choose something between where we have digitized the airports. So it looks nice. So why don't we just digitize from here, okay, from the camp, sugar camp, come down south here, okay, and then just, split it here, just to make it interesting. Okay. All right, so we are going to digitize. So because I've already taken you through the point layering, I'm just going to go, this one's going to go a bit faster because I don't have to see everything again, okay? So new shapefile layer, and then I'm just going to tell it where it should go to. I want to call this the railway, rail line. Rail line is better. Railway sounds a bit old school. Okay, rail line. Just save it. Come here, geometry is line. And then I want to give it an ID, but I don't have to type an ID. It will always be asking me for an ID. For rail line, what do we want to call it? What are some of the attributes? Speed is one of them. Test. I want to, so speed won't be test. Okay, so I'll change the type and make it a decimal number. So that's real number. Okay, so real number, decimal, floats, they all mean the same thing. You take us back to primary school, it will mean the same thing. All right, so now let's give it another one that's interesting. The length will be interesting. The length is also a decimal number. Let's just add to it. There's a precision. So the precision has got to do the number of zeros. Okay, so we could have changed precision. Okay, so let's leave it there. And we add one last interesting one. So normally for every rail, there's a name they give to it. Let's keep a name in there. Northern line, southern line, whatever. South coast, they give it interesting so that I can identify it in case someone gets missed, you want to get somewhere. So the name attribute is so common. It's a common attribute used for most databases. I don't want to take it to databases. Let's leave it there. All right, so there we are. You say, okay, have we done this? I think we haven't added this. Okay, so but name won't be real. So I'm going to have to change it and make it test. Is okay. So I'm going to remove the name field and then create it again and make it test. So name, and I make it test data. And then that's it. I'm good to go. Just say, okay, add to field list. So now you see the type is string. I think I've already explained that. So when you see tests and all these things, say test data is string, you see the agreement, you just say, okay, then we are ready to go. If you remember the steps, you toggle editing, and this time we don't see add point feature, we see add line feature. Okay, so do it for lines, same thing for lines. Okay, it's going to end soon. When we come back, we started digitizing for the lines. If you have a question, ask before your tutorial become your exam question. Okay, so let's continue on the other side. When I